Okay. Our speaker today is Joe Bouch. He's been a part of the advertising industry for 42 years. 12 of those years were spent on Madison Avenue in New York City. Over the years, he's owned and operated several agencies, and he's currently the owner of 78 Madison. He's worked with a variety of clients in various industries, including Procter & Gamble, Winn-Dixie, and hundreds of hotels and resorts and destinations around the globe. We're really happy to have him here today. He's also my father.
Yes, I am.
So welcome, Joe, and I'll let you take it away.
Great. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. It's a little rainy here in Central Florida. I don't know if you guys are all from the Central Florida area, but good time to be having a webinar, and hopefully we can go over some information today that'll be helpful. So why don't we go ahead and dive in? I would assume that most of you guys have a lot on your plate being near the end of the week, so we'll just get started. What I'm going to try to go through in terms of objectives is I want to talk a little bit about the challenge before us. Then I'm going to go into some steps we need to be taking, at least in my opinion now, things we can leverage to maximize customer engagement, and then closing remarks and some Q&A. So interestingly, when I was asked to address the importance of marketing during an economic downturn, the first thing I thought of was there is literally no historic data for what we are experiencing with COVID-19. I mean, nothing. This is truly unprecedented. It's uncharted territory. And frankly, there's never been in the history of the United States a purposeful economic shutdown. So it's new territory for us and for marketers, and that's what I want to address today if possible. And I want to start with the fact, kind of to set the table for today's discussion, I want to start with the fact that good marketing at its core has to include a deep understanding of your target market. And so what I mean by that is you need to know day-to-day lives, you need to know your audience's challenges, you need to know their joys, you need their perspective on the world around them, their likes and dislikes. And because once you understand that, once you have built your key personas, per se, you can figure out how your brand fits into that story. And probably everybody listening to this webinar had that down pat. I mean, I'm sure. And then this thing called COVID-19 shut down schools, and it shut down businesses, imposed social distancing, and completely unended almost everything we thought of as a typical daily life. And so one of the key things I want to say right now, and I want you to hear me, most or many of the things you knew about your target audience, they're different now. They're gone. Let me repeat that. If you really understand your target audience, most of what you knew about them are gone. I don't know if they're gone for good, but they're gone. People right now are feeling communal anxiety and grief. Their daily routines have likely changed completely. And some have either lost their jobs or are risking their health to keep essential services functioning. And the other challenge, perhaps the biggest challenge, is that there's no playbook for this economic tragedy. We have to accept that there's probably not a right answer to the question of how we engage marketing in the midst of or post-COVID-19. So the key is going to be to err on the side of humanity and transparency, and to avoid the big no-nos and faux pas like a tone-deaf ad campaign or insensitive post on social media. So let's look at some of the steps I would recommend moving forward with during these challenging times. And so first, if you've not already done so, and I hope everybody out there has done so, and some of this that I'm going to go through today is going to be hopefully not new to everybody, but a good reminder. But if you've not already done so, you need to reanalyze your marketing plan with COVID-19 in mind. In times like these, you need to be able to respond to change in real time. So ask yourself, is my marketing plan flexible? We've been asking that for every one of our clients here at 78 Madison, probably starting 4 months ago. For practically the entire time we've lived under COVID-19, our situations have changed daily. And those changes have had ripple effects on people's feelings and behaviors. So likewise, these changes should trigger a marketer to step back and say, okay, what do I have in the market right now? Hopefully you're doing that. Does my current plan still have merit in today's environment? And here's a biggie. Ask your media partners if they are doing any pulse research to honestly see how their audience is consuming their product today, not 6 months ago. I think you'd be amazed how people who are online, visiting websites, looking at magazines, looking at banner ads, looking at e-blast, again, the audiences have changed. So you want to be wary. Everyone is desperate to keep what they have right now, including the media that you're utilizing. So make sure your message is in the right place at the right time and that the media is delivering what they promised. If there were ever a time to hold media's feet to the fire on audience delivery, it's now. So I would really challenge each and every one of you to audit on a weekly basis. Make sure that the media is absolutely delivering what they said they would deliver. Second, don't panic. And I mean, seriously, just sit down, not in front of your computer, and take a few deep breaths as we look at what COVID-19 is doing for all of our clients and our marketing plans. It's not a time to panic, but it is a time to gain perspective daily, particularly as you plan for 2021. I would imagine each and every one of us is planning for 2021 right now. And that's really a difficult thing to do because we don't know what's going to happen over the next 2 or 3 months going into the fall as it relates to COVID. But, you know, when you think about what we do for a living, marketing, people's lives are at risk, yes, but not from our marketing campaign. So we really don't have to freak out necessarily about what we're doing in the marketplace. And an important part of not panicking is to not immediately pull back on all your marketing efforts every time there is a bump in the road. We have a client down in Naples, a hotel, that we had to strong arm basically probably 3 months ago to get back into the marketing game. They had gone dark, as most hotels across the country. We finally convinced them to start marketing again. And 1 week after we got their marketing campaign up and running, the city of Naples decided to close the beach. And they decided to not allow anybody to be on that beach. And so for a beachfront hotel, that's a pretty difficult thing to do. And the first thing that the hotel wanted to do was to stop their marketing after they had only been up for 2 weeks. The good news is we convinced them to stay the course. And I think 3 months later, they're happy they did that. I think that their business is coming back a lot stronger today, simply because they stayed with the plan of a marketing program in the works. So if you've re-engaged your market spending, don't stop every time there's a perceived bump in the COVID road, because there's going to be likely more coming this fall. I mean, let's be real with each other. There is such a confusion, and it will really be heightened in the fall when the flu season comes. There's going to be a lot of panic. Is it COVID? Is it flu? And we're going to have to kind of all, as marketers, figure out how that plays out in the marketplace, and therefore how that plays out in our marketing. It may seem like a prudent option to cut marketing budgets to preserve cash flow, but I would challenge each of you guys to consider what's called the mere exposure effect. That's MERE, or the phenomena that being exposed to something more will make you like or appreciate it more. So keeping your business and your client's business in front of consumers during an economic downturn, more often than not, will improve perceptions of your brand, and you need to be doing that. And this goes to the heart of the message that marketing in a recession is something that you have to do if you want to keep your business healthy. You have to keep a voice out there at all times, or the opposite is you risk losing your brand and business to the competition. Third area is evaluate your current images and language and tone of voice. And again, I'm going to assume that most of y'all have done that, but you can't remind yourself of this too often. You know, you want to assess everything you currently have in the market, starting with the channel that gets the most eyes, and that's probably going to be websites and social media platforms. And you want to evaluate those assets and messages from a new point of view, one that is living in a world with record high unemployment rates, economic uncertainty, and general anxiety. So your messages, just think about this when you're assessing what you have in the marketplace. Your messages, both the copy and the imagery, should consider the impact of cultural events on your customers. They may be in a sensitive emotional state and possibly not in the mindset to make a purchase from your business, yet it's still important to engage them. It's still important to spend. It's still important to remain in the game. From the organic, follow the organic lead of your community, your region, your state, your industry. Figure out what they're doing, figure out what they're saying, figure out what consumers are perceptive to, and then change your messaging accordingly. And I also want to address the elephant in the room. It's something that a lot of people won't talk about, but don't get political. You will never win. It doesn't matter what you believe or not believe politically. It does not belong in your brand messaging. Just talk about your brand, talk about your core message, and go forward with that. Fourth, adjust marketing campaigns and timelines. You want to craft a message that is sensitive to the current situation, that takes into account your customers' new situations and concerns, and also messaging that is honest and transparent and hopefully human. A gold standard for this kind of message pivot is what Nike did shortly after Americans were asked to stay home, if at all possible. And if you look at that ad there, pretty simple. And it says, if you ever dreamed of playing for millions around the world, now's your chance. Play inside, play for the world. I mean, a great, great message for the time. It's human. It's inspiring. It aligns with the spirit of the moment of COVID-19, and the simple black and white creative adds to the gravitas, I think, of the message without pulling it into dreary gloom. Instead, it has an underlining tone of hope, and they put it out pretty fast. And that's the kind of messaging and thinking that you want to put into your marketing plan as you move forward. Fifth, you want to have a positive mindset, but don't be insensitive. Try your best to keep an upbeat attitude and show your customers that you're there for them. These are uncertain times and also still hopeful for the future. So you just want to have consumers know that there is hope out there. They need to feel things are going to be okay. They need to feel they matter to you. And that said, watch that you don't cross the line into possibly being seen as insensitive by minimizing the scale of the pandemic or its impact on human life. So just put some hope out there, much in the way that Nike did. Just be transparent, be clear, and stay to your core values of your brand. And then sixth, at all costs, retain and grow your customer base. There's something, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, called the Pareto principle. That's P as in Paul, A-R-E-T-O, the Pareto principle. And it says that 80% of your revenues are going to come from 20% of your loyal customers. I'm sure that's something that you've heard before. So if COVID-19, if you think about your business base, your client's business base, if COVID-19 has dramatically reduced your sales, or you've had to temporarily close up shop, it's your loyal customers who will be the ones to keep your business alive as we navigate the pandemic. Keep that in mind. Loyal customers are going to spend more on average with larger purchases, and they're going to do it more frequently than trying to get new customers. And it's a win-win. Those who market in a downturn, they're going to win. Those who market almost entirely to that 20% sweet spot, they're going to win even bigger. So that's the 1,000-foot view. So now I want to spend just a little time on things you can leverage to maximize customer engagement immediately that will keep your clients and your company in the game without spending a ton, hopefully. So the first one is really kind of one of those does. And the honest truth is, if you can't accomplish this first area, there are things you can do. But I would really challenge you, if you've not done so already, convince your clients to spend some money, even if it's minimal. They need to just engage in the game. And I tell you, with COVID-19 and everybody having such a difficult time with business, with sales, with having to lay off people, spending is a difficult proposition. But I would challenge each and every one of you to come up with a good white paper, if you will, that will set out the reasons why spending is smart on behalf of your clients. And again, this directly addresses the topic at hand. There is historic research in economic downturns. It pays to spend through the recession. And of course, you have to be smart about that spending. But the important thing is for your brand and for your own company, actually, you have to be seen. You go to Google, you're going to find that time after time after time, research is borne out that brands that remain in the game during economic down cycles will grow exponentially quicker than those who go to the dark. And it makes logical sense. I mean, when customers are ready to engage again, and I think we're starting to see customers begin to engage, they're going to instinctively do business with those that are top of mind. And who's top of mind? Those who continue to market during the worst of the crisis. So you want to be one of those brands. On the other end, consider the fact that if you go dark, if you went dark and you stayed dark for an extended time, it could take up to 6 months to truly turn your lights on again. To try to recapture customer attention when your competition has been out there for the last 3 months, that's a difficult thing to do. The next area you really need to think about, and of course it's a term that's not going to be unfamiliar to y'all at all, is content marketing. And content marketing, think about COVID, think about the fear that we've already talked about that is in most consumers' hearts and minds right now. Where's my next paycheck? When do I go back to work? All the things that are just creeping into their lifestyle. Content marketing for you, for your brand, is all about answering your customers' questions and keeping them engaged. It connects your brand and company with your audience, and it keeps them coming back for more. And it's a great way to reflect your voice. So think a lot about content marketing. And if you can zero in on the questions of the day as it relates to your brand and your industry, content marketing is a great way to fill the holes left by paid campaigns that you may have paused to conserve cash. Now, one of the things I don't like to do when I'm doing a session like this is do any self-promotion, but I'm going to do a little bit of self-promotion here. So, and I'm doing it because I want to give you all an example. So 78 Madison, during this entire downturn, has been relentless in getting helpful information out to people. We've been relentless. So what I would challenge you to do at another time, check out some of our blogs. Go to 78madison.com, go to our blogs, and particularly go to one called Why Strong Leadership Matters in Crisis. And you'll see what I mean. If you go to that blog, and the reason I'm pointing you to that one, and there's others to look at, but the reason I'm pointing you to that one is throughout that blog, you're going to see a lot of links. They're going to link to articles that we've written that are in major magazines around the country. 78 Madison has been a leader in the restaurant industry, the hotel industry, the real estate industry, in terms of telling those industries how they needed to market during this pandemic, giving suggestions, things they needed to do, how that they could be in the forefront. And what I'm telling you in this content area is that you need to promote and give information to the people that are most important to your business and also to your client's business. So I would challenge you to go to our blog section, look at what I mean by that, and you need to be out there. The bottom line is you need to perform a content audit of what you have now. Make sure that what's out there is appropriate for the times. By the way, there are a lot of people who have, you need to look at past blogs. You need to look at your website. You need to look at your Facebook and social media platform, and you need to see the language that's on there right now. And if the language is not appropriate for post-COVID-19 or being in the midst of COVID-19, you either need to pull those down or you need to change the language. And then think about what kinds of content would be useful to your customers. right now and start writing. Start getting published. Get relevant messaging out there. And if you have anything, by the way, relevant that you can update and release from the past, do it now. So if you, for example, did a blog 3 years ago, when you do this audit and it makes relevant sense for now, repost it. Reuse content you've already written that might help you for now. The point is simply provide information. Be seen and be in the game. Content marketing is about relevant information, not only about your products, not only about your services, but about navigating COVID and commerce. It doesn't mean you should be the one-stop shop for COVID-19 facts, but you can provide information to your customers that they're going to find helpful. Subtly become a partner helping people ease back into the world. Your brand, your company will be better for it. All right, I already talked about spending, but one of the things you really need to look at is paid advertising, and if you can do it. I mean, if you're going to convince some of your clients to spend, you need to do some paid advertising, of course. And when we come out of this on the other side, your brand, if you're not spending money, may have been forgotten. So if you can afford it, keep your paid ads running and find ways to budget instead of killing the program entirely. It doesn't have to be at the budget levels that you were doing pre-COVID-19, but anything and everything helps. The other thing I would recommend that if you do paid advertising is don't do what I would call pants on fire, conversion-focused advertising only. Do a mix of conversion-based and brand-based messaging. In difficult times, I would challenge you to not underestimate the power of brand messaging. It can often generate more sales, by the way, than aggressive discounts and promotions. I don't know how much TV you guys are watching during this COVID period of time, but I can tell you, or I don't even know if you've seen as many as me, but it seems like every night I'm seeing about 5 to 10 commercials just for McDonald's alone. I'm also seeing a lot of Subway sandwich shop commercials. I'm going to use those two as an example. One is discount driven and one is brand driven. And for me, whether or not I'm the target audience or not, and I guess in some cases I am, I've been drawn to the brand messaging of McDonald's the most. I'm a bigger Subway fan, but McDonald's has really put messaging across the airwaves that is core brand. It's core about who they are. It's core about their product. They're not trying to sell you a 25-cent hamburger. They're just talking about what they do best. The point is that messaging now is more about communicating your identity and values than buy this blender today. The next area I want you to think about, if you haven't already, is social media. And it's a wild card on a good day, as you know. So you need to tread carefully, but tread you must. If you have an established presence on social channels, you should you should be there now and often. I mean, if your clients are present there and they're present strongly, you just need to be really spending a lot of time with that sector, especially if you find yourself having to pull back on ad spend. You need to responsibly take advantage of all of your organic opportunities. So be there and be social. Social media is a great place to do some brilliant storytelling. It puts the user at the center, hopefully, of an experience that you're writing about that's so incredible, they'll be compelled to share the message. Engaging and contagious social media can get you noticed. Your social media platforms can be a powerful foundation for building trust and relationships, but you have to be engaged. I mean, you really have to be engaged. You have to be part of the conversation, and that's kind of the message throughout everything I'm saying today. If you're not part of the conversation, you're not in the conversation, and probably your competition is. Now, I talked a little about how important branding was, but there is a place certainly for discounts and promotions. So as you look at your marketing plan and you get messaging back out there again, there is no doubt with the consumer base today hurting in terms of finances and their budgets, that discounts and promotions can be helpful in getting your customer base moving. Certainly the discounts you might use will depend on the business that you're in. And to give your business meter a shot in the arm, try something. I mean, examples like volume discounts, stay 3 nights, get the 4th free. You might discount shipping or offer free shipping. You might do bundling, buy a purse and shoes and get an additional 40% off. There might be BOGO offers. Went to the store recently and 24-pack of San Pellegrino water was on sale. BOGO, and that's pretty expensive water. So I picked up a lot. It's something that I probably wouldn't have bought in the past, but I did. Or do a charity, a % of sales going to a charitable organization. But do some discounting, do some promotions, and as I said, mix the conversation with branding. Email marketing. For me, and I don't know about you guys, but when I look at our client base, which is mostly travel and hotels, and I look at 78 Madison, email marketing is the holy grail of efficient communications. If you stopped e-blasting people during the pandemic, that was a mistake. And I would just challenge you on your behalf and on your client's behalf, don't compound the mistake by not starting now. Get going. Hopefully you have a robust database of loyal or interested customers. Talk to them often, give them hope, offer them a reason to engage with you. I could go on for now, but it's just an important area to be. So that's really kind of all that I wanted to talk to you today in terms of the guts. Spending is important. Being engaged is important, and being involved is certainly important. And as I close, the reason I decided on presenting what I presented today, because, initially when I was asked to talk, about, what's the merits of advertising during a recession. And again, I will repeat that I don't think the pandemic we're in is even comparable to recessions that we have been in the past. But the reason I decided on presenting what I presented today was that I worry that learning from past recessions may not be directly applicable to what we're going through right now. For starters, no one knows how long COVID recovery might take. And I think that's the scary part. I can sit here today and I can look at our clients and I can look at the news and I can look at how business is moving and I can say, you know what, I think we're out of this. I think we're getting close to being out of this. But it takes one spike. It takes one spike to change things. So no one knows how long the recovery is going to take. And the combination of social and economic restrictions are going to undoubtedly have long-term ramifications for every one of us, for general consumers and businesses alike. So if in the midst of COVID, people have been forced to change behaviors and brands, which they have, I'd be willing to bet that every one of you out there have changed some of your behaviors and brands, and then find their experiences better or more convenient with the new brand, then that change is likely to stick. And we all have to determine how that impacts our business. We have to all determine how that impacts your clients' businesses. An example in the agency business is that for now, and I don't know if Rebecca would agree with this or not, but for now, everything seems to have shifted to project work. We're not doing full service fee-based advertising right now. Companies aren't looking to hire ad agencies full service wise, but they are looking for project work. Will that stick long term? I don't know, but agencies have had to shift in how they look at businesses and how they do work. Now, my suspicion, and I'm not a forecaster, but my suspicion is that the impact will not be as great as people believe right now, long term. I think ingrained behaviors that we all have are slow to change. We're all social animals, and I think, I suspect people are already dreaming of throwing a big celebration party. Rebecca raised her hand. I think that we're all dying to eat out with our friends and our family, and some of that takes place, but I think you would all agree that it's different. I think we're all looking to take a beach vacation with the kids. or with our friends, our significant others. And the more I've researched examples from the Great Recession, which is 2008, the more I'm convinced that relative status, which is I classify as market share, only changes when a brand actively does something that changes the dynamics of the category, good or bad. Even if a new normal takes 3 years to arrive, it is going to come. And if your brand is to gain share during that recovery, you need to be in the game now. So I guess my final note is that facing an unparalleled pandemic, instigated recession, what do? We know that a disruption creates opportunity as well as threats. I talked a lot about today the threats of not doing something, but also I would challenge you to understand that there's a lot of new businesses that are cropping up right now because of COVID. There's a lot of disruptions that are creating opportunity. And I got to believe there's disruptions that are creating opportunity for each of you guys as much as it's creating opportunity for us. If you're to increase the probability that your brand recovers better than the competition, you're going to have to assess what the best combination of efficiency and investment will be. Hopefully, all that we talked about earlier will help you in that regard. But I would challenge you, don't make assumptions. What situation does your brand face now? Understand what that is and how might it change in the future. And if you can get your arms around how it might change in the future because of what we're all walking through together, then your marketing plan and how you invest and spend should reflect that. And more than ever, you need to be in touch with your customer and understand how their needs, both functional and emotional, might be changing. And then beyond that, you need to assess what is most likely to build competitive advantage for your brand in the future. Does your strategy need to change in post-pandemic world? What new distribution opportunities exist? What innovation will be the most meaningful? How can you best build brand desire? Those are a lot of the things that you want to talk about and to look into. So I hope that was helpful. And I guess I'll open it up for questions.
Not seeing any right now, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to shoot them into the Q&A section and Joe can go ahead and answer them. Just give a minute here, see if anybody pops in with any questions. Oh, here we have one. So this question is, for the future marketers, what should we expect going forward?
For the future marketers?
I guess for up and coming, think coming out of college, kind of new going into the business, what should they expect, you think, as they're kind of starting to go into the industry?
Well, I think that certainly they need to stay grounded in just what the first thing I would do is put COVID-19 aside and just have your marketing principles in order and have your base understanding of what advertisers do and what marketers do and be prepared for that. In terms of COVID, what I would do is be a student of this pandemic. Be a student of everything that is happening in the marketing world as it relates to COVID-19. Study what the best companies in the world have done. Try to assess the companies have done it right and the companies that have done it wrong. Be prepared when you go to interview at any organization. Be prepared for the question, and if it doesn't come to you, ask them. Ask the retailer or ask the company that you're interviewing with. What did you do in terms of leadership during COVID-19 for your business and your customers? But also be prepared for somebody to ask you, if you were in the saddle of a marketer during COVID-19, what would you have recommended for your client? So be a student of COVID-19.
Good answer. Not a question, but just a comment. Somebody said, thank you, good stuff. We have any other questions? Feel free to drop them in. We have time for a few more if anybody has any. Just give another minute or two here before we move on in case there are any more questions. Okay. I'm going to move on to some AMA slides, but still, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in, sneak them in there. We can still address more at the end. But first, I just want to thank you all for joining us here today. Oh, hang on. It looks like we had another question. Oh, we had another question pop up. What's your biggest challenge in your agency now?
Well, for 78 Madison, 90% of our clients are hotels and travel. And as you can imagine, within a matter of 3 weeks, with COVID taking place, most of our budgets went from 100 to 0 pretty quickly. We had most of our clients, big and small, not spending. So, the first thing we had to do was survive. And, we did some things here at the agency. We've had to lay off some people, unfortunately, not a lot, but we've had to, cut down on some of the services we've had, some of the softwares we were using. I mean, we looked at, as we would challenge anybody to do, we looked at everything we were spending money on and try to cut corners as best we can. And a lot of that's starting to come back. And then, as I said in my presentation, instead of kind of just looking at our wounds and say, woe is me and everything is bad, we became very aggressive in becoming the information highway in terms of how we could help others through the COVID-19 pandemic. And that's what we spent our time doing. And, one of the things that is hard to do sometimes is, because next question could be, did you get anything out of it? The answer is no, not yet. But my guess is we will. And I will tell you that over the last week, we've had 4 business inquiries from people who were looking for an agency. And 3 of those had seen articles that we had written. So I think it's coming back to pay off. So, and that came from articles, that came from e-blasts that we kept sending. So we just kept doing what we do best. We kept nursing our clients through the pandemic. We kept giving them ideas that they didn't ask for in terms of how to spend. And they started to finally open up the pocketbooks and begin to spend. They're still not, if anything, they're probably at 40 to 50% levels. But hey, 2 months ago, they were at 5% levels. So that's progress.
A few more questions rolling in now. So the next one is, what happens if you have a low budget and rarely any loyal customers?
And then I would go out, I would identify again. So put the loyal customers aside. If you know who your sweet spot audience is, and then you need to identify what I would call the low-hanging fruit areas and just market the living daylights out of it. You need to write blogs and put them on websites. You need to do e-blasts. You need to, if you can, you need to try to, I guess, buy some low-level email list if you can. Send out e-blasts. You need to be using social media as much as you can, and you need to be engaged daily, answering every question you can so you can build your following up. So that's what I would do. I mean, if you don't have any budget, you need to use every low-hanging fruit that you can. If you can come up with a way to do a press release and you have the ability to distribute that press release pretty much free of charge, I'm assuming, again, that you might have something like Cision so you can build your media list. By the way, you can build a database through Cision also to do your e-blast. So just find out all of the resources that you currently have and use them as much as you can. But use social media, use public relations, use blogs, use everything you can that in essence doesn't cost you money.
Any other questions? Feel free to drop them in. Give us another minute here before we move on, just to make sure we don't have any others, any stragglers. Okay. We'll go ahead and move on then. Thank you all for joining us today, and especially thank you to Joe for, I think, giving us some really great insight on this subject. I hope you all got a lot out of it. Again, this was recorded, so we'll be sending out a recording of this afterwards. I did just want to go into a few slides just with a little bit about AMA and some of the upcoming events that we have, because we are doing these webinars at least once a month now, obviously, in the COVID era where we're not able to meet in person. So if you enjoy today's session, certainly we'd love for you to come out to some of the future sessions. And if you're interested in getting more involved in AMA, I just wanted to give a little bit more information about that as well. So the price for AMA has actually recently come down. So if you have any interest in joining, now is really the best time to take advantage of it and look into it. You can visit the URL on the screen to try to get some more information on that, or feel free to reach out to anybody who's part of the Orlando chapter, which you can do through our website, which is amaorlando.org. There's a lot of really great content that you can get being a member. Again, we do events once a month, which you can oftentimes get free entry into, in addition to a lot of resources that come from AMA National, a lot of different toolkits, research, ebooks, access to webinars at the national level. And these are just a couple of things here. So membership really does pay for itself. And oftentimes you can get your employer to help cover it as well. So if you're interested, certainly reach out to us, visit the URL. Also, if you're already a member, or if you're just looking to get more involved in the local Orlando marketing community, we do still have some opportunities available on our board in programs, communication, and sponsorship, and really just a variety of different things that you can do, being able to network with other people who are also very ingrained in the local marketing community, and just a good opportunity to build your skills. So again, if you have any interest in potentially getting more involved, being a member of the board, please visit the AMA Orlando website or reach out on our social channel, and we'd be more than happy to give you some more information on what that entails. And then I mentioned some of our upcoming webinars. On September 23rd, we've done a couple of webinars in partnership with Net Conversion. We will be doing another one on September 23rd. It's another one of their COVID recovery dashboards. So those have been some really great events, sharing some really great data on just some of the consumer trends that they're seeing throughout COVID. We'd love for you guys to join us for that. And then on October 14th, we're going to be doing a webinar in partnership with Name Tag International. We are also working on planning our next webinar for November as well. So stay tuned for more information on those. Again, you can visit our website or follow us on social just to stay up to date on more information. And then just a quick thank you to some of our sponsors who we're always happy to be involved with. And that is it. Thank you guys so much for joining. We hope that you join us again next time, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day.